children do suffer, though, because my children, we had to train them to go to school because the media would be outside the door, effing and blinding, hoping they would say something they could write down. And at the local comprehensive school where my children were, one of the teachers was sacked and the students demonstrated, and the BBC arrived and gave tomatoes to the students to throw at the teachers. And it's quite horrific. The experience is quite horrific. And it made them very, very strong, but also very, very frightened. It wasn't very pleasant. I had a policeman in the house part of the time, which I didn't like at all. And I think you have to remember there is a price that's paid for being in or around what is called public life. On the other hand, Harry Truman once said, if you don't like the heat, get out of the kitchen. And so it is always the option to withdraw. And I think Nye said if you didn't believe in it, it wasn't worth taking all the flack. And Nye had an awful lot of this when he was considered a horrific figure. On the other hand, there is a danger in old age of becoming a kindly, harmless old gentleman. That's the final corruption. I didn't realize it. And I am kindly, I am old, I could be a gentleman, but I'm bloody well not harmless. And I got a death threat the other day. I was so chuffed, I haven't had one for years. And so you have to retain a sense of balance.
Tony mentioned something like Nye Bevan. I've been back and looked at some of the press that Nye Bevan used to get. It's unbelievable. On a par with stuff that we got or that Neil Kinnock got and lots of people down the years. But in the end, Nye Bevan now dead and gone, what do people remember about Nye Bevan? Not what people said about him, not what the press said at the time. They remember what he did and what he achieved and the changes that he made for Britain. And that, in the end, is all that matters. And I reached a point that, you've heard me complaining about the media, and I complain about the media largely, to be honest, because I'm asked about it. But I've now reached a point where, for example, I don't read newspapers and I don't feel any less informed for it. I haven't listened to the Today programme since 2003, and I don't feel I've missed a single thing in my life. I tend to find out about things because broadcasters phone me up to ask me to comment on things, and then I'll ask them to explain what's going on, and I'll decide whether I want to speak about it or not, depending upon whether I think I've got something to say. And if you can reach that point where you know what's going on around you, you know what it is that you're trying to achieve, and you sort of just keep going. And I mean, one of the reasons why people are probably surprised at how Tony and I are probably a lot more friendly than people imagine that we might be because of our political positions, but actually I like the people who kind of just keep going on. And whatever's going on around you, you know what you believe, and you try to prosecute those beliefs in different ways, inside and outside of politics. And in the end, you don't give a damn what the media say. And I think one of the reasons they kind of loathe me as much as they do is that they know that deep down, when it comes to it, I do not care what they say or think about me.
Well, I'll tell you a funny story about the media. It just occurs to me listening to this. When I'd been in Parliament about 6 weeks in 1951, I went to the tea room, went to the dining room, and Herbert Morrison came secretary. I don't know whether Herbert Morrison means to you, but he was Deputy Prime Minister. He'd been the Ken Livingstone of London for years and so on. And as we were sitting there, Clem Attlee, the Prime Minister, came by, and Herbert said to him, "Clem, it was a disgusting attack on you in the press today." Clem said, "I don't read the press." And he walked away, and Herbert said to me, "I've known that man for 30 years, and I still don't know whether to believe a word he says." Because it was incredible to Herbert Morrison that Clem, all he read was the births, deaths, and marriages. And I got a letter from him once saying, "Dear Tony," I was still very young, 1951, same year. "Dear Tony, congratulations on the birth of a daughter. I hope, congratulations to you and Maureen on the death of a daughter. I hope that you and the mother, and she and the mother are doing well." Well, I hadn't had a baby, but it so happened that morning, my wife had told me she was pregnant. So I wrote, "Dear Prime Minister, I feel I ought to tell you that I am not the father of the child, as you're the leader of the party. But," I said, "it so happens your letter arrived exactly 9 months too soon." So when my father met Clem Attlee that afternoon, Clem said to him, "Congratulations that you're about to become a grandfather." And my father was absolutely staggered by this. How could he know? But this was because Clem always read the births, deaths, and marriages. So some Maureen out there, the wife of Benn, I don't know who he was, triggered the Prime Minister's interest. Cricket scores, the births and deaths of marriage, all Clem read, and that's how he survived. Well, he had a pretty bad press too.